Hello friends, welcome to Drishti Judiciary CLAT sample paper discussion. Myself Abhishek Mishra, and in this class we will be discussing the test paper that has been provided by the consortium of NLUs, which will be conducting the CLAT 2025. The CLAT 2025 is scheduled for 1st of December 2024, and in this video we will be discussing the sample paper and how we can better attempt the questions. Now I will be telling you about certain tips and tricks which we can keep in mind to get to the right answer. Also, I will be happy to announce that the Drishti Judiciary is coming up with this CLAT Marathon test program, which is available in both online and offline options for the benefit of students. So in today's video we will be discussing the CLAT sample test paper that has been given by the consortium. So CLAT paper, as you know, it consists of paragraphs, and after that paragraph you have questions. Sometimes you have questions which are basically general knowledge oriented and they may not be covered within the paragraph, but at other times the questions to the answers can be, or the answers to the questions can be found in the paragraph itself, right. So we will be going through these 11 passages and we will also see that what tips and tricks we can apply to get to the right answer. So the first passage is about natural disasters. So let us just do a fast reading of the passage and let us see how we can attempt the passage. So natural disasters and crises have been an integral part of human history right from the dawn of civilization. The rise and fall of the Indus Valley and Babylonian civilizations are a testimony to this. In the early days, individuals and communities would lead the response to a crisis. However, with the emergence of the modern welfare state and the 20th century trends of globalization, urbanization, large-scale migration of human population and climate changes, the nature of crisis facing nations has increased both in magnitude and in complexity. For example, while the frequency of calamities may have remained unchanged, increasing population densities and urbanization have resulted in a greater impact on human lives and property. In the field of public health, while science has secured a major victory over epidemics, new strains of viruses and drug-resistant microorganisms have emerged, raising the specter of global pandemics of new and more deadly diseases. Similarly, while the frequency of wars has declined, modern weapons and mass urbanization have increased manifold the humanitarian crisis caused by such conflicts. The scourge of terrorism has created new types of crises, and increasing dependence on communications and computer networks have increased the threat of newer emergencies in case these are disabled by accident or by design. Further, phenomena like modernization, information explosion, transnational migrations and the economic interdependence among nations have all contributed to extending the impact of crisis situations over larger areas, right. So the paragraph is basically talking about natural disasters, and it is not restricted to that only. It is also talking about the various crises that are happening in today's world, right, and it is also giving reasons that why this is happening. Now let us look at the questions. So there are sometimes two kinds of techniques which can be utilized in answering the passages. So one technique is to read the questions first, and in the light of that you go back to the passage. The other technique is to do a fast reading as we have done now, and then let us look at the questions and go back to the passage and find out the answer. So both techniques are good, but it depends on the individual with which technique you feel yourself to be more comfortable, right, which saves you time and which allows you to be more accurate. So in this exam you have to be both accurate and speed conscious, right. So you have to be fast as well as accurate, both are needed. And if it is a choice between the two, one has to be more accurate than only just fast. Right. So let's look at the first question. One of the following is the most logical and rational corollary. Corollary means that it is a natural consequence of what has been stated. ठीक है, इससे ये follow हो रहा है. So one of the following is the most logical and rational corollary to the above passage, and the options A, B, C, D are: globalization and urbanization are primarily responsible for 4 emerging disasters and crisis situations. In the passage that we have read, nothing like this was mentioned, right? So we also need to use the elimination technique. तो हमने एक ऑप्शन को एलिमिनेट कर दिया. The second statement is B. Rise and fall of various ancient civilizations around the world have been attributed to natural disasters. This seems to be a reasonable assumption. ऐसा कुछ हमने पढ़ा था. So we'll go back to that. C. Developing countries like India should oppose globalization and urbanization. There was nothing of this sort mentioned in the entire passage. D. Poor countries have little role to play in the mitigation of disasters and crises. This was also not mentioned in the passage. तो हमने जब passage को पढ़ लिया, we have read the passage, and just by a simple reading of the passage, we are able to eliminate 3 of the options. So we are left with the right option, which is B. Still, to be sure, what we should do, we should go back to the passage and see if this assumption or this is the most logical and rational corollary to what has been mentioned in the passage. The rise and fall of various ancient civilizations around the world have been attributed to natural disasters, right? So let us look this up. So see, in the very first line, it has been said that natural disasters and crises have been an integral part of human history right from the dawn of civilization. Natural disasters and crises have been an integral part of human history right from the dawn of civilization. The rise and fall of Indus Valley and Babylonian civilization are a testimony to this, right? So from this 3-4 lines, this corollary can be drawn, which is given in statement B. So B is the right answer, right? तो देखिए, लंबा पैसेज था, बट हमने एक कर्सरी रीडिंग की, उसमें ही हम we were able to eliminate the options. So elimination is a very, very important technique to be utilized in CLAT, because through elimination you will save time and the chances of getting the right answer will also increase. Okay. So now let's come to the second question. The second question is asking us, on the basis of the passage, the following assumptions have been made. 1. Increasing globalization has led to the arms race, which is not being said actually, right? And second statement is digitization has increased manifold the threat of terrorism. Something like this was mentioned in the passage. We'll go back to it. Sustainable development will lead to a better adaptation and mitigation of disaster situations. This is also seems to be correct, but let us go back to the passage. After this, we must read this complete question. Many times the tendency which is there is to read only the statements, and we just assume that it will be asking us that which of these statements are correct. Now in this question it is asking us that okay, which assumptions are valid or correct, but in some question it may be so that they may ask that which are invalid or incorrect, right? So even if we get the question right, we can ultimately end up marking the wrong answer, because it is not asking us what are correct, right, which statements are correct. So we need to be very careful. So at least once we should read the entire question and then only we should try to answer it. So after reading the complete question, we look at the options 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, and 1, 2 and 3 only, right? 1 is coming in all in 3 places. So if we can find out that if 1 is incorrect, then our question is easily solved. So let's look at the first statement. It says increasing globalization has led to arms race. So where this arms race or weapons are mentioned in the passage, let us go back there and see if something like this has been said there. Increasing globalization has led to the arms race. right. So here it is. Similarly, while the frequency of wars has declined, modern weapons and mass urbanization have increased manifold the humanitarian crisis caused by such conflicts. The scourge of terrorism has created new types of crisis, right. So here nothing of the arms race is being said. It is only being said that the what is being said that modern weapons and mass urbanization have increased manifold the humanitarian crisis caused by such conflicts. So nothing about arms race is mentioned actually. So statement 1 is actually incorrect. Increasing globalization has led to the arms race. So we can clearly eliminate this. So 1 is the incorrect answer. So that means this cannot be the answer, this cannot be the answer, this cannot be the answer. So we are left with the right answer 2 and 3 only. Right. We can again double check it. So digitization has increased manifold the threat of terrorism. Something like this is mentioned in the paragraph also. It is said that the scourge of terrorism has created new types of crisis and increasing dependence on communications and computer networks have increased the threat of near emergencies in case these are disabled by accident or design. Right. So statement number 2 is correct. And then statement number 3, sustainable development will lead to better adaptation and mitigation of disaster situations. Right. So that is actually an assumption which can be drawn from this, right. So it is saying further phenomena like modernization, information explosion, transnational migrations and the economic interdependence among nations have all contributed to extending the impact of crisis situations over larger areas. So we can infer that it is saying that sustainable development will lead to better adaptation and mitigation of disaster situation, right. So for this question elimination is working much better, right. Through elimination we can do it faster and correctly. So right answer is B, 2 and 3 only. Next we come to the second paragraph. So the second passage is India would reduce fossil fuels, generate more renewable energy, reduce carbon emissions and intensity and eventually become a net zero emitter by 2070. The goals are ambitious, they are built around the levers which at the policy level are most likely to create a positive impact on climate. Can policy initiatives alone fulfill India's commitments towards the arresting climate change? Actions that are driven top down via government policy no doubt set the stage for change. But unless people shift their attitude and behavior in tune with the policy initiatives, change will not be able to retain its momentum, right. So this is the passage. Now let's look at the questions which have been asked. So based on the above passage, the following suggestions can be made. 1. India with the help of renewable energy would be able to control carbon emissions completely by 2070. Something like this has been said in the passage. We will go back to it. Then government may involve citizens in policy making and execution for achieving the target of net zero emission. Something like this is also mentioned in the passage. So we will have to check. Then we complete the question. Which of the above suggestions are valid? Okay. So which of these are valid? Which of these are correct? That we have to see. So पहला देखते हैं, India with the help of renewable energy would be able to control carbon emissions completely by 2070. Right, carbon emissions completely by 2070. This seems to be little problematic. It is saying India would reduce fossil fuels generate. So it is saying reduce. It is not saying eliminate. ठीक है, eliminate होता तो completely. Reduce means कम कर रहे हैं. So India would reduce fossil fuels, generate more renewable energy and reduce carbon emissions. यहाँ भी eliminate नहीं बोला है, reduce बोल रहे हैं. And intensity and eventually become a net zero emitter by 2070. Right. So we have to be very precise, pinpointed. So statement 1 is incorrect because it is saying completely by 2070. We are trying to reach the net zero by 2070. We will reduce. Now second statement is, so when one is eliminated, So, two options are gone. Then second statement, government may involve citizens in policy making and execution for achieving the target of net zero emission. तो क्या कुछ ऐसा सजेस्ट किया गया है पैसेज में? So it says, can policy initiatives alone fulfill India's commitments towards arresting climate change? Actions that are driven top down via government policy no doubt set the stage for change, but unless people shift their attitude and behavior in tune with the policy initiatives, change will not be able to retain its momentum. That means people have to be involved. ये इसमें suggest किया जा रहा है. So we can see that statement 2 is correct. Government may involve citizens in policy making and execution for achieving the target of net zero emission. So we can say that B is the right answer. Okay. So careful reading of the passage is important, and we get better with practice, right? Also, we need to improve our vocab so that we are able to know the exact meaning of words. So for that, what you should do, whenever you are coming across a new word, you should note it down in a diary and also write its meaning and a sample sentence, so that you know what is the meaning and how to use it in in writing whenever you write. So it will improve your vocab. Next question is, what is the crucial message conveyed by the passage? Options are, climate change cannot be reversed only with the commitment of India. इस तरीके का मैसेज तो इस पैसेज में नहीं दिया गया है, राइट? ये only with the commitment of India, so we can eliminate this. Climate change is a global issue and people across countries must change their attitude towards it. We can see if something like this has been said. Indian government should consult specialized global agencies in the formulation of climate change policy. This also has not been stated in the passage as such, right? So C is also not there. We can eliminate this. हमने दो को eliminate कर दिया अभी तक. D is policy framework along with targets should prescribe citizens' behavior for contributing to meeting net zero emission targets by 2070. This seems to be correct because अभी हमने जो passage पढ़ा उसमें ये बात है कि सिर्फ टॉप डाउन करने से नहीं होगा, we have to involve the citizens also, right? So policy framework along with targets should prescribe citizens' behavior for contributing to meeting net zero emission targets by 2070. So this seems to be the right answer. Then only B. B is climate change is a global issue and people across countries must change their attitude towards it. So nothing like this has been actually stated in the passage, right? What it is saying is a generic thing and it is true, but not as per the passage. And here we have to, based on the passage, the following suggestions may be made. So based on the passage, we cannot make that suggestion. So the what is the crucial message conveyed by the passage, right? So we have to look at the crucial message conveyed by the passage. So crucial message क्या होता है? जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट मैसेज इस पैसेज का है वो यही है कि ओनली टॉप डाउन अप्रोच विल नॉट वर्क, सिटीजंस विल हैव टू बी इन्वॉल्व्ड, राइट? जबकि जो बी है वो बोल रहा है कि क्लाइमेट चेंज इज अ ग्लोबल इशू एंड पीपल अक्रॉस कंट्रीज मस्ट चेंज देयर एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स इट. सो द बेटर आंसर इज डी, डेफिनेटली. पॉलिसी फ्रेमवर्क अलॉन्ग विद टारगेट्स शुड प्रिस्क्राइब सिटीजंस बिहेवियर फॉर कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू मीटिंग नेट जीरो एमिशन टारगेट्स बाय 2070. Okay, now we come to the third passage. So the third passage is about India and US and about electronic goods and components. So India, which will soon have twice the number of internet users as the US, is a large market for all kinds of new technologies. While this presents a huge opportunity, the domestic industry has not yet managed to derive the benefits. For instance, the country is operating far below its potential in electronic manufacturing. Electronic goods and components are the second largest items after oil in India's import bill. Also, the country's imports are almost 5 times its exports in this industry based on 2020-21 data. High value electronic components needed in the manufacture of, say, mobile phones are technology and design intensive. Big multinational companies control these technologies and corner the bulk of revenues. China has used its large market size as a bargaining chip in negotiations with foreign firms. Stay in our markets only if you localize production and share technology with the local firms. So ये passage is basically talking about that how India is a very big market for these electronic goods, but still our manufacturing sector has not been able to capitalize on the opportunities. And it also gives example of China, that how China has leveraged its market to ensure that the big multinational companies, they share their technology, right, and it develops the local manufacturing capabilities. So now let's look at the questions. So based on the passage, the following assumptions and suggestions have been made. Indians have a high rate of consumption of electronics. This seems to be true. India may use its large market size as a bargaining chip for the promotion of its electronics industry. ये जैसे चाइना का जो एग्जांपल दिया गया, इससे यही इन्फ्रेंस है कि इंडिया शुड आल्सो यूज इट. But we have to read the complete question. It says which of the above assumptions and suggestions are valid. So it seems that both suggestions are valid, right? So the first one also seems to be correct, and the second one also seems to be correct because it is mentioned clearly, right? The first statement is Indians have a high rate of consumption of electronics. So it says that India will have the twice number of internet users, and it presents a huge opportunity. The domestic industry has not yet managed to derive the benefits, right? So electronic goods and components are the second largest items after oil in India's import bill. So Indians are big time consumers of electronic goods. So that is there, and India may use its large market size as a bargaining chip. So this is derived from this these lines where China's example has been given, that how China has used, and the author would want that India should also capitalize. Then the 3.2, question number 3.2, which one of the following statements best reflects the crux of the passage? Right, crux means the जो निचोड़ है उस पैसेज का, right? What is the one thing, one takeaway of the passage? So which one of the following statements best reflects the crux of the passage? Union government should trade with USA not only in products but also in services like technology. This is definitely not the crux. ये बोला भी नहीं गया है. Domestic companies should invest in human resources to excel in the technology of the electronic industry. This also has not been said in the passage. Despite a large user base, India is not able to scale electronics production due to technological limitations. Yes, this has been said in the passage. Big multinational companies should shift their manufacturing base from China to India. This also has not been stated. So through elimination only, we can come up with the right answer. Right? So elimination technique आपको काफी यूज करनी है. इसके लिए पैसेज को अच्छे से पढ़ना, फिर क्वेश्चन को अच्छे से पढ़ना, और बाद में फिर पैसेज में जाइए और देखिए कि कौन सी चीज है जो कि पैसेज में कही गई है. राइट, एंड वी हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल विद द क्वेश्चन ऑल्सो. राइट, कि क्वेश्चन क्या पूछ रहा है, कि ये पैसेज से एज्यूम कर रहा है, या पैसेज में ये दिया हुआ है, या पैसेज में लिखा हुआ है, या ये क्रक्स ऑफ द पैसेज है. ऑल दीज टर्म्स वी शुड बी वेरी क्लियर विद देयर मीनिंग्स. Right, we come to the fourth passage. Social media is a form of communication via the internet. Its main goal when it came into being was to create a virtual kinship network throughout the world. Kinship means family ties. So the users of social networking sites were untroubled until the coming of the 1990s. This was when cybercrime was born. So cybercrime was born around 1990s. Believe it or not, it is we who gave away our personal information online. Intentionally or unintentionally, we gave away a lot of our personal information. Tons of cyber information available online has opened the gates for new legal challenges for which adequate laws are yet to be framed. These can range from stealing your social security benefits, filing compensation claims using your credentials, and using your names for making monetary transactions in their name, to using your credentials for making fake passports, PAN cards, etc. It has been noted that the younger generation falls prey to such cybercrimes the most. This is majorly because of their immaturity, which is easily identified by these criminal minds, though we wrongly end up accusing the cyber security loopholes in many cases. Right? तो सोशल मीडिया के ऊपर है, और जो साइबर क्राइम्स वगैरह हो रहे हैं, जो हम प्राइवेट इन्फॉर्मेशन को, पर्सनल इन्फॉर्मेशन को पब्लिकली शेयर कर रहे हैं, intentionally as well as unintentionally. So that is being highlighted in this passage. So now let's look at the questions. So the question number 4.1 is, based on the passage, the following assumptions have been made. So based on the passage, assumptions have been made. First one is, lack of understanding about privacy among the youth could be a major reason behind cyber crimes. So something like this was definitely being said in the passage. So we'll see this. Second is, misuse of information may happen partially because of the slowly evolving legal provisions. This is also something similar was being said. Now the question, which of the above assumptions are invalid, right? So before this passage, in all other passages, it was all about valid, which of the assumptions are valid. This is asking us which is invalid. Okay, so very careful we have to be, because sometimes we may read it incorrectly और sometimes we may mark it incorrectly because हमने पूरे क्वेश्चन को ठीक से पढ़ा नहीं है, समझा नहीं है. ओके, तो ये इनवैलिड पूछ रहा है हमसे. तो फर्स्ट assumption, lack of understanding about privacy among the youth could be a major reason behind cyber crimes. So something like this we had read in the passage. Intentionally or unintentionally, we give away a lot of our personal information. Tons of cyber information available online has opened the gates for new legal challenges for which adequate laws are yet to be framed. This is statement number 2. So it follows from here. These can range from stealing your social security benefits, etc. And then about the youth, it has been noted that the younger generation falls prey to such cyber crimes the most. This is majorly because of their immaturity, which is easily identified by these criminal minds, right? So both the statements are actually following from the passage. So based on the passage, the following assumptions have been made, and yes, both assumptions are correct, but here it is asking us which are invalid. So the right answer would be D, neither 1 nor 2, because it is asking us which are invalid. So both assumptions are valid, that means we go for D, neither 1 nor 2. Then 4.2 is, what is the most rational inference that can be drawn from the passage? So let us read all the 4 options. The most important step to controlling cybercrime is to upgrade the cyber security software, protocols and algorithms. This has not been stated in the passage, right? This is not in the passage, और ये उसका आइडिया भी नहीं है पैसेज का. Social media is the prime medium contributing to the misuse of personal information of the youth. ऐसी बात भी इसमें नहीं की गई है, right? In fact, the blame is on the people themselves that they share a lot of information which they should not be. Mere cyber security solutions will not stop the misuse of the personal information online. ये इस पैसेज का ऐसा लगता है कि क्रक्स है. D is, the overall improvements in cyber security should not be limited to present day requirements but address future needs as well. This also seems to be somewhat true because ऐसा इसमें पैसेज में बताया गया है कि कुछ legal provisions हैं which need to be further worked, right, to ensure that the laws are up to date with the changes happening. So, but always we have to go for the better answer, right? So the better answer for this rational inference is C. Mere cyber security solutions will not stop the misuse of the personal information online. So C is the right answer in this passage. We come to the next passage, passage number 5. It says, while corruption remains endemic and deep-rooted, India's anti-corruption measures remain half-hearted and slow. This is largely because the vital institutions raised to fight graft lack genuine autonomy and a serious sense of purpose. Even a handful of anti-corruption institutions, TVC, Lokpal, that enjoy some degree of autonomy have not shown any signs of being independent. However, fighting entrenched corruption should not be left to these handful of macro or elite institutions alone. This is because while corruption that happens at the top level often attracts media attention and the occasional national outrage, a great deal of corruption which affects the ordinary person is at the retail level, right? तो इसका central idea is ये कि yes, corruption is there and corruption को जो हम address करने की कोशिश करते हैं वो जनरली टॉप लेवल पे एड्रेस करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, जबकि जो सबसे ज्यादा करप्शन है दैट इज एट द रिटेल लेवल, राइट. So now let's look at the questions. Which of the following statements best reflects what the passage implies? So A, fight against corruption impacts mostly the top level, the ordinary man often continues to suffer. So something like this has been stated here. Politicization of institutions and the lax attitude of citizens is the core reason for deep-rooted corruption. ऐसा इसमें नहीं कहा गया, right? So the passage is not exactly saying this. Then government must bring immediate reforms in anti-corruption institutions. This has also not been stated in the passage as such. Without aware and informed citizens, overcoming corruption is a difficult task, right? So let us see what has been said. Fight against corruption impacts mostly the top level, the ordinary man often continues to suffer, right? So while corruption that happens at the top level often attracts media attention and the occasional national outrage, a great deal of corruption which affects the ordinary person is at the retail level, right? So we can see that D seems to be the, sorry, fight against the corruption impacts mostly the top level, the ordinary man often continues to suffer. So A seems to be the correct answer. D, without aware and informed citizens, overcoming corruption is difficult task. Now this is not exactly mentioned here, right? So even a handful of anti-corruption institutions that enjoy some degree of autonomy have not shown any signs of being independent. However, fighting entrenched corruption should not be left to these handfuls of macro or elite institutions alone. This is because while corruption that happens at the top level often attracts media attention and the occasional national outrage, a great deal of corruption which affects the ordinary person is at the retail level, right? So A seems to be the right answer. So we go with A, 5.1 A. Right. Next, we have another passage. So in recent times, India has faced at least one major flood event each year. So one major flood event each year. As the 2023 monsoon progresses, floods are beginning to repeat the pattern of damage and destruction. Every year, 1600 lives on average are lost due to floods according to the National Disaster Management Authority. Floods also affect 75 lakh hectares of land and inflict damage worth rupees 1805 crores to crops, houses and public utilities. A range of tools are available to manage floods. Broadly, these are classified as structural and non-structural. Structural measures include storage reservoirs, embankments and diversions. These reduce flood hazards by keeping damage causing waters away from agriculture areas, cities, industries, etc. Storage reservoirs moderate the flood peak by storing water during high flow periods and releasing it after they have subsided. They also conserve water for irrigation, electricity generation, water supply, etc. Their effectiveness in flood moderation depends on the space available. In addition, tanks and ponds are traditional means of water conservation in India. They also aid in groundwater recharge and promote biodiversity. तो ये सारे structural methods के बारे में बात हुई. The non-structural methods such as flood forecasting, warning and floodplain zoning help in the timely evacuation of people and regulate the use of floodplains. Note that floods are a hazard only when people go close to flood waters or hinder their movement. A forecasting and warning system provides a priori estimate of approaching floods so that people and movable assets are relocated to safer places in time. India has more than 5,500 large dams. Accurate inflow forecasts help moderate floods by estimating the space needed for storage in reservoirs. So this is the passage generally about flood and structural and non-structural methods of mitigating the issue. So the question is, with reference to the passage, consider the following statements. In India, flooding is a frequent occurrence. So once a year the flood is coming, right? Every year the flood is coming. So it seems to be a frequent occurrence, right? The prompt relocation of individuals is made possible by non-structural flood control techniques. So we can see this, right? Whether this is true or not. Then which of the statements given above are correct? Okay, sometimes they can ask us which are incorrect. So now we know that we have to find the correct statement. So in India, flooding is a frequent occurrence. This is correct. Let's look at the second statement. Prompt relocation of individuals is made possible by non-structural flood control techniques. In the passage we can see that what is the non-structural methods. So non-structural methods such as flood forecasting, warnings and floodplain zoning help in timely evacuation of people and regulate the use of floodplains, right. So we find that this is correct. So the prompt relocation of individuals is made possible by non-structural flood control techniques. So C is the right answer. Both 1 and 2 are correct, right. So see, sometimes in passages we'll get very easy, very direct answers, okay, but only thing is while reading we have to just try to maybe underline or circle some of the important keywords that we get in the passage, so that when we read the question we can go directly back to that section of the passage, which will save us time and also help us to answer the question correctly. Now let's come to passage number 7. So in this passage number 7, it is about sustainable development goals. So the SDGs were adopted by the United Nations member states, including India, in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Target year is 2030. SDGs are a set of 17 interrelated global goals, further subdivided into 169 targets and pledges to leave no one behind, thus designed to bring the world to several life-changing zeros, including zero poverty, hunger, AIDS and discrimination against women and girls. The expression Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, which outlines India's national agenda for development and converges with its commitment towards SDGs. Niti Aayog, which is India's premier think tank, has been entrusted the task of coordinating the SDGs and mapping the schemes supporting ministries for each target. According to Tendulkar Committee, the poverty level is 21.9% of the population. 2/3 of health expenditure is out of patients' pocket. Maternal mortality rate is 122 per 1 lakh live births. In 2016-17, infant mortality rate is 33 per 1000 live births. In 2016, near universal enrollment has been achieved at primary school level, but dropout is 4.34% in 2015. As per the Swachh status report of the National Sample Survey Office, in 2015, more than half of the rural population of the country still defecates in the open. Right. So the passage starts with talking about SDG, and later on it goes towards India's challenges in this field. So now let's look at the questions. So 7.1 is asking us, according to the passage, which of the following are of paramount importance under the SDGs, right? And then 4 statements are given. So eradication of poverty, this seems to be good. Protect the planet and ensure that people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. To bring the world to several life-changing zeros, including zero poverty, hunger, etc. This also we had seen. And 4th is both 1 and 2, right? Both 1 and 2. Then it is saying select the correct answer using the code given below. 1 and 3, 2 and 3, 3 only, 4 only. But there is no option which is saying 1, 2 and 3. Otherwise that would have been a logical choice. That means it is only in combination 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 that are correct. If or 1 and 2, that can also be correct, right? Because 4th option is giving us both 1 and 2. Now we can check for 1 and 2. So see, and it is asking us, according to the passage, which of the following are of paramount importance under the SDGs? Which is of paramount importance? So SDGs were adopted by all United Nations member states, including India, in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, right? तो जब भी कोई चीज होगी वो जो सबसे पहले बोला जाएगा वो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है उसके लिए, राइट? तो SDGs के लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है to end poverty, protect the planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. That means eradication of poverty is first priority, protect the planet and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. This is also first priority. So 1 and 2 together we don't have any option, but in 4 we have that option, both 1 and 2, and 4 only is an option. So again, utilizing the elimination technique, we can say that 4 should be the right answer, right? Which is 1 and 2. So, because 3 seems also to be very, very close, because it is also talking about several life changing zeros, including zero poverty, hunger, etc. But again, we have to go with the better answer, right? जो better answer हो सकता है, तो इस केस में 1 and 2 together seems to be the better answer, right? Which is D, 4 only. Next we come to 7.2. With reference to the passage, the following assumptions have been made. Development with all and for all. SDG is tasked to ensure 100% enrollment of children in schools, which is not the case. We can eliminate this. Niti Aayog to coordinate the SDGs and mapping of schemes globally. So, Niti Aayog does it with the ministries within India, right? So, it's not doing it globally. Then everyone should be treated equally and no one should be left out from the benefits outlined by SDG. Now, which of these assumptions are valid, right? Correct. Correct कौन सी assumptions है? So, definitely development with all and for all, this we had seen in the passage only. So, we can say that 1 is there in all the 3 options, like 2 only is not there, and 2 we have already eliminated. So, now it can be 1 and 4 and 1 and 3. Then Niti Aayog to coordinate the SDGs and mapping of schemes. So, 1 and 3 is also eliminated. So, that means we are left with 1 and 4 and 1 only, right. So, everyone should be treated equally and no one should be left out from the benefits outlined by SDGs. So, let us look at the passage also. Because in the passage there is pledges to leave no one behind, right, pledges to leave no one behind. So, 1 and 4 they seem to be the correct answer. So, B should be the right answer in this. Okay. Now, we come to the next question. What is the essential message in this passage? The main focal point is the all round development of the rural population. So, it is not classifying it for the rural population only. So, we can eliminate this. All round development of the world as a whole in a sustainable manner, ऐसे कुछ बात हो रही है. Then poverty eradication and improvement in the MMR, IMR and enrollment rate. This is also not the central message of this passage. To implement all the goals of the SDG in efficient manner in coordination with government of all the member nations. इसको भी exactly ऐसा नहीं बोला जा रहा है इस passage में, right? So, this also can be eliminated. So, we get the right answer, that is B, all round development of the world as a whole in a sustainable manner, right? That is being mentioned in the, that is the central idea of this passage, all round development of the world as a whole in a sustainable manner. Right. So, that way we can, through elimination, we can get the right answer here also. Now, we come to the next passage, passage number 8. The end of hunger SDG focuses on promoting sustainable agriculture. One of the SDG's 2030 target is to ensure full implementation of sustainable food production systems and resilient practices to double the agriculture productivity and incomes of small scale food producers. This also entails maintaining the genetic diversity of seeds, cultivated plants, farmed and domesticated animals. The Food and Agriculture Organization defines climate smart agriculture as an approach that helps guide actions needed to transform and reorient agriculture systems to effectively support development and ensure food security in a changing climate. It takes into consideration the diversity of social, economic and environmental contexts, including agroecological zones. Implementation requires identification of climate resilient technologies and practices for management of water, energy, land, crops, livestock, etc. at the farm level. It also considers the links between agriculture production and livelihoods. Foreseeing the future risk of climate change, the Government of India is implementing the National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, one of the 8 missions under the National Action Plan on Climate Change. Parallelly, the Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana (PMKSY) envisages per drop more crop that is promoting micro drip irrigation to conserve water. There is also a push to cluster based organic farming through the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. The mission of these programs is to extensively leverage adaptation of climate smart practices and technologies in conjunction with the Indian Council of Agriculture Research and state governments. As we propagate climate smart agriculture practices in India, few last mile delivery mechanisms need to be strengthened, more so to achieve the sustainable agriculture related SDG targets by 2030. Right. So, let us look at the questions. Right. So, it is a long paragraph. So, sometimes this long passages we have to read very carefully, और जब पहली बार पढ़ रहे हैं तो थोड़ा फास्ट रीडिंग कर सकते हैं, बट वी कैन अंडरलाइन द keywords that we come across, right, so that we can immediately come back to that portion of the passage if those keywords are mentioned in the questions asked from the passage. So which of the following is the most definitively implied by the passage? Option A is the world needs to adopt climate smart agriculture practices to achieve SDGs in the changing climate. SDGs are not achievable by 2030. This we can eliminate. ऐसा कुछ नहीं बोला जा रहा है. Developing countries like India have lagged in developing smart agro products. तो इंडिया ने इनफैक्ट ऐसा डेवलप किया है, इस तरीके की बात इस पैसेज में है. So we can eliminate this. Right. And the third one is adoption of genetically modified organisms will lead to loss in crop biodiversity. This was not stated in the passage as such. So we can see that. So through elimination we have got the right answer also, but we can just see that what has been stated about the biodiversity, right. So this also entails maintaining the genetic diversity of seeds, cultivated plants, farmed and domesticated animals, right, but nowhere it is giving that idea which has been stated in the option D. So right answer would be A. The world needs to adopt climate smart agriculture practices to achieve SDGs in the changing climate, right. So that should be the right answer. Next question is, the passage seems to imply that sustainable agriculture is the need of the hour to protect the genetic diversity of flora and fauna. Countries need to invest more in research and development of climate smart agri products. Which of the following statements given above are correct, right. So here we can see that both statements seem to be true. Sustainable agriculture is the need of the hour to protect the genetic diversity of flora and fauna. This is correct, and this is implied by the passage also. Countries need to invest more in R&D of climate smart agri products. So that also seems to be correct. So we can go with the C option, both 1 and 2. Right. Now we come to the next question, question number 9. So Green Good Deed is a social initiative to take environmental awareness to the people and get them involved. The campaign lauds small positive actions like cleanliness drives within the school campus, carry out waste segregation into biodegradable and non-biodegradable, paper recycling and conducting tree plantation drives, etc., performed by individuals or organizations to strengthen the cause of environmental protection. The campaign requires the people to alter their behavior to green good behavior to fulfill their green social responsibility, right. तो अब इस पैसेज पे देखते हैं what question has been asked. So it is asking us which of the following is the most logical and rational inference यानी कि उससे जो logically follow होता है from the above passage. First is green good deed campaign is focused on small positive actions to spread environmental awareness. Something like this has been stated in the passage. Behavior of the individuals or organizations is essential to make green good deeds a success. ऐसा कुछ नहीं कहा गया. Green good deeds seeks to transform the people's behavior into green good behavior and fulfill green social responsibility. So this also we will have to check. Then cleanliness drives within the school campus carry out waste segregation into biodegradable and non-biodegradable, paper recycling, etc. are critical to green good deed campaign, right. So this also seems to be something which we can eliminate. We'll see. एक तो हमने eliminate किया, behavior of the individual or organization is essential to make green good deed success, because it has not been हमको पता करना है कि what is the most logical and rational inference which we can draw from the passage. So let us read it again. It says green good deed is a social initiative to take environmental awareness to the people and get them involved. The campaign lauds small positive actions like cleanliness drives within the school campus, right, etc., performed by individuals or organizations to strengthen the cause of environmental protection. The campaign requires the people to alter their behavior to green good behavior to fulfill their green social responsibility, right. So this seems to be the crux of the passage. The campaign requires the people to alter their behavior to green good behavior to fulfill their green social responsibility. Let us see if this is there. So in option C, green good deed seeks to transform the people's behavior into green good behavior and fulfill green social responsibility. So we can go with the C option. This seems to be the best answer for this question. Then we come to the passage number 10. It is about the rise of right-wing populists across the world has destabilized constitutional democracy, a form of government that protects citizens against the brute power of majorities on the one hand and limits the proclivity of the elected governments. Proclivity means उनका जो वो करना चाह रहे हैं, right? That means they are predisposed to something, proclivity of elected governments to hold and exercise immense power on the other. Citizens are shielded and governments controlled by constitutions, institutions, the rule of law and independent judiciary, fundamental rights and democratic civil societies. So let us look at the question. For the author, the rise of populist politics raises the concern as it endangers the democracy, it strengthens the rule of law. So populist politics, it can never strengthen the rule of law. We can eliminate this. It strengthens the dissenting voice? No. It holds the constitutional values? No. So the right answer should be it endangers the democracy, right? तो sometimes passage ऐसे होंगे जो आप अपने जनरल नॉलेज से, कॉमन सेंस से भी आराम से आंसर कर सकते हैं, राइट. So only thing is vocab आपकी अच्छी होनी चाहिए because then you will be able to understand the precise meaning of the words that are used in the sentences and what the sentences mean. तो थोड़ा सा vocab पे काम करने से it will be very very helpful. Now we come to the final passage, passage number 11. It is about youth. So it says youth today do not realize that one is modern only when his thoughts and actions bring out something new, right? One is modern when only his thoughts and actions bring out something new, which can set an example to the rest of the world. Imitating only the Western outlook in lifestyles, leaving aside their values, is not what modernism is. Should we consider a youth modern if he opts for a dozen girlfriends and then pretends to be ignorant when dowry in marriage is concerned? The family also plays a vital role in shaping one's life. If the urban population in India is divided into two broad divisions, the elite and the middle class, will find that the youths belonging to both these classes suffer from severe frustrations. The parents in the higher society are so busy with their work that their children are left neglected. Loneliness, tensions arising out of parents' unhappy relations and family feuds results in psychiatric depression in the youth. The case is similar in the middle class families, though with a difference. Lack of attention at home ruins them. The situation is not so grave with the girls as they generally prefer to stay at home. Whatever its conditions be, but young men desperate to find some refuge quite often come in contact with drugs, alcohol and other illegal activities. Neither are they happy with the society nor is the society happy with them. Right? So it is about the youth and what are the challenges they are facing. So the question is, the passage is concerned with options are urban youth, elite class youth, the middle class youth, the modern girls. It is definitely not about the modern girls. After that, elite class and middle class youth both come under the heading of urban youth. So we have to go with the first option, urban youth. So passage में बात हो रही है urban youth की, right? So we have to apply our common sense also. Next question is, youth in the elite class families are lonely and depressed, prone to drug addiction, desperate for revenge, angry and defiant. Desperate for revenge नहीं था पूरे passage में, angry and defiant ये भी नहीं था. So let us look at lonely and depressed, prone to drug addiction, angry and defiant, youth in the elite class families. So let's go back to the passage and see. If the urban population in India is divided into two broad divisions, the elite and the middle class, will find that youths belonging to both these classes suffer from severe frustrations. The parents in the higher society are so busy with their work that their children are left neglected. Loneliness, tensions arising out of parents' unhappy relations and family feuds result in psychiatric depression in the youth. The case is similar in the middle class families. Right. तो ये पहले जो हमें बता रहा है वो elite families के बारे में बता रहा है, elite class के बारे में. So loneliness, tension arising out of parents' unhappy relations and family feuds result in psychiatric depression. So depression is something we can find. So lonely and depressed. So 11.2, the answer should be lonely and depressed, A. Next, last question is being truly modern means. Options are imitating the West, definitely no. Opting for a dozen girlfriend, no. Accepting dowry in marriage, no. Doing something exemplary, right? And this is the right answer, and it is also mentioned in the passage also, where youths today do not realize that one is modern only when his thoughts and actions bring out something new which can set an example to the rest of the world. Exemplary, right? When you can set an example for the world by doing something new. Right. So this is the final question, right? So we have seen the 11 passages. Obviously it becomes little taxing, right, to do all these passages at once, and a lot of reading is involved and careful reading is involved. तो अगर हम carefully read करेंगे तो the chances of our getting the right answer will increase, right? Sometimes the passages will be confusing, sometimes it will be difficult words जिसकी हमें शायद एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग ना पता हो. तो एक काम तो ये करना है कि अपना वोकैब को इम्प्रूव करना है. तो यू मस्ट work on your vocabulary, right? Work on your vocab, learn new words and their meanings. Right. Next thing is you have to read the passage very carefully. And underline any key words or points, right, that you feel can be important, right? So that you can easily directly come back to that. Third, read the question even more carefully. Carefully and fully and completely till the point it is telling you whether the statements you have to identify are valid, invalid, because many times वो पूछेंगे कि इनकरेक्ट कौन सा है इसमें से और आप उसको क्वेश्चन को आंसर कर रहे हैं कि करेक्ट कौन से हैं, तो आपका क्वेश्चन फिर गलत हो जाएगा. सो रीड द passage very carefully and underline keywords points, read the question carefully and completely, then only you go for answering the question. Then you should use elimination method, right, wherever possible. Use elimination technique to get the right answer wherever possible. हर जगह शायद पॉसिबल नहीं होगा, लेकिन जहां जहां पॉसिबल होता है वहां आप इसको यूज करिए. wherever is possible, wherever it is possible, right? You should make use of that. So CLAT exam, generally the passages are, sometimes the passages will be long, as we have seen here also, sometimes the passages are very small, but don't be afraid of a long passage. Sometimes the question may be very simple, right, and maybe in a small passage the question may be little bit complicated, right? So do not go with any prior assumption, go with a flexible open mind, read the question carefully, apply your mind to it, and also be very careful that what has been asked in the question. क्या क्वेश्चन आपको ये पूछ रहा है कि आपके जो आप जानते हैं उसके बेसिस पे आंसर करना है या सिर्फ पैसेज के बेसिस पे आंसर करना है। जनरली क्वेश्चंस ऐसे होंगे जो पैसेज के बेसिस पे ही आंसर करने हैं, तो वहां फिर आपको जो बाहर से पता है उसको आपको नहीं लाना है, राइट। तो दैट इज ऑल्सो समथिंग विच इज वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल। So I hope you enjoyed this session, and I look forward to meeting you again in the classes. So this is it from my side, and I am wishing you all the very best for the CLAT exam. Thank you.